What's up, Beastcoast Pokemon? The 2023 Pokemon World Championship is just around the corner, and we are going to be going over everything you need to know about the World Championship, including the metagame so far, teams that will likely be seeing, a few of the favorites to do well, and a couple of hot takes. Let's get started. So if you don't know, Worlds will be in Regulation D, which means everything from the Scarlet and Violet Pokedex, plus transfers from Pokemon Home, are legal, including Pokemon from the Legends of Arceus games. Alongside, it's going to be performed best of 3 Swiss with open team sheet. This is drastically different from previous Pokemon World Championships, as this is going to be the first time we're going to be in a new format to be using at the World Championship with no prior events in official tournaments, as well as the best of 3 open team sheet is going to be completely different from closed team sheets that we've used previously. Worlds is a 3-day event this year compared to 4 days last year, with players who have gotten a day 1 invite either through qualifying from top 4 at the 2022 World Championship or by getting a day 1 invite qualifying through the 2023 circuit. Day 2 happens on Saturday, adding players who qualified through day 1 and those who got day 2 invites from their regions mixed into a pool to play Swiss rounds, where those who finish with a record of 2 or fewer losses move on to a final single elimination bracket and continue to play until a final 2 are decided and play on Championship Sunday. Let's get caught up in the metagame now. Regulation D has only been about a month or 2 old at this point, and it has rapidly advanced. We've seen a lot of teams, especially at the beginning. We had a lot of Dragonite Chi-Empower combinations to Terra normal extreme speed just to threaten, and Chi-Empower getting even better in Regulation D thanks to the new additions of like Genies, Pokemon that can just hit with very super effective coverage, especially ice coverage being more valuable than ever. Cresselia and Ursaluna is also another duo. We finally got new Trick Room users that aren't like Armarouge and Torkoal, and they are absolutely fantastic. Cresselia is just a great bulky Pokemon, access to Lunar Blessing, which is a brand new move that heals itself and its allies by 25% and gets rid of all statuses, which is absolutely incredible. Ursaluna is a brand new hard-hitting Trick Room abuser that can do a lot of damage, especially with Guts, usually held a Flame Orb, and can go for very powerful stab facades, 140 base power with a base 140 attack stat that can dish out a huge amount of damage. Then some other cores we've seen a lot of have been like the steel cores. Usually it's involving either Heatran or Golden Go alongside the grass type of whether it's a Moongus or Rillaboom, and usually the water or Shifu as well. And we've seen a lot of those cores end up doing really well, especially on the Regulation D ladders, and have done really well in online tournaments as well. Then we have other teams including Weather, which have been like Basculin Legion, Rain, which has been pretty common, as well as Sun with like the Torkoal, Hisui, and Lilligant paired with Trick Room sometimes, and sometimes Snow with the Articuno. These have been dropping a little bit recently, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some at the Pokemon World Championship because Weather has always been a great powerhouse, especially in the early stages of a brand new format. And then we also have a huge dominance in Tailwind, especially with Prankster Tailwind from Tornadus and it getting Bleakwind Storm, a very strong flying type that is spread move as well, that just does so much damage. And Tailwind, absolutely incredible in the format. It also gets a lot of weather control too. Chi-Yu Fluttermane is something that has kind of popped up towards the later half of Regulation D and brought back from Regulation C. It is still a very, very powerful core, as Chi-Yu and Fluttermane can still do a lot of damage, especially paired up with like Tornadus. Dondozo Tatsugiri is still something that's been playing around, and we do still see kind of the same tricks that we've seen as the previous regulations, as I wouldn't be surprised to see Dondozo or Tatsugiri combos do really well at this World Championship, as some players might not expect it. Maybe we'll finally see a new twist as well on these duos. We've also seen the resurrection of previous formats known as Double Genies, Thundurus Incarnate, and Landis Variant. It's very consistent, can spread Thunder Waves, do a lot of damage. We've seen this paired with like Hex Fluttermane to dish out a lot, and it's a pretty good balance. You have really strong hitters as well as like really general good bulk, as you have bulky Thundurus does have some pretty strong combinations. Regidrago is also a Pokemon that has been doing extremely well in the tournament scene, with winning a grassroots tournament in both Japan and also in Europe, performed by Eric Rios. So let's talk about the players who are expected to do well at the event. Ever since 2017, the world champion has always been either the current reigning Japan national champion or has gotten top 4 at a previous world championship. Players who qualify for this would involve the current Japan national championship, Kaito Ari. He has been a really strong player for several years now and definitely has a pretty good chance in my opinion. Then we have several players who have qualified qualified for getting top 4 at the World Championship before, and I think a really strong pick would be Paul Chu, who got top 4 at the 2022 London Championship. We also have Marcus Statter, who got 2016 top 4 as well, and he has won a regional in the 2023 circuit, so wouldn't be surprised to see him come out and do really well at this event. And Nils Dunlop, who has gotten 2 top 4s at the World Championship back in 2017 and 2018, and I would not be surprised to see him do well. And then you have myself, of course, who has also gotten top 4 at the 2019 and the 2022 World Championship. Will I be able to do well? I'll leave that for time to tell. Then, of course, we got to talk about the world champions who want to claim another title, of course. And why not start with the current world champion, Eduardo Cunha, who won the 2022 London World Championship. And I know that he is hungry to defend his title and showcase why he is considered one of the best players in the world. Then we have others who have, of course, phenomenal seasons. Naoto is someone who has gotten the first place, of course, at the 2019 World Championship, but also has gotten top 8 at the 2022 World Championship, and he'll be fighting through day 1 this time, so it'll be interesting to see how well he'll perform. Then we have another strong contender in Paul Rees, who won the 2018 World Championship as well as getting top 4 the previous year in 2017. He has gotten top 8 at the EUIC Championship this year and is definitely looking like a threat as he has qualified for the day 2 of this current World Championship. So it'll be interesting to see how well he'll perform as well. Worlds has already the best of the best players already competing, and there's so many players that we could highlight. So I'm just going to pick a few who have done extremely well throughout the circuit. We have Marco Fierro, who has been consistent so far, getting several day 2s at the World Championship, and he has had a phenomenal season so far. Alex Gomez has had a really consistent season this year, and after winning the North American International Championship this year, which was the prior event leading up to the World Championship, would not be surprised to see him doing well, especially with how well he's played so far. Eric Rios has been very consistent, getting top 16 at the previous World Championship in 2022 and top 8 at the 2019 World Championship, and alongside a phenomenal season, pretty much getting top 16 at least at every single event he's went to this season. We have Gabriel Agati, who has been one of the best players in the world. 2019 he did get top 16 at the World Championship, and he's had a very phenomenal season, including a 2nd place at the European International Championship. We also have Emilio Forbes, who got 2018 2nd place runner-up as well, and he's had a phenomenal season so far. His regional accomplishments have been absolutely stellar, getting 1st, top 8, and top 8 once again. Not going to many events, but overall such a strong player, and would not be surprised. One of the best players, has an insane regional record, and has a lot of experience at the World Championship, and wouldn't be surprised for him to make it through day 1 in order to qualify for day 2. And then we have Shohei Kimura, who got top 4 at the Japan National Championship this year, and I think is a really strong player and someone who to look out at this World Championship too. And finally, Jisok Lee, who hasn't really competed in many events this year, but actually won the first regional championship back in San Diego, bring a really unique team, especially with that Terra Poison Garganical. Would not be surprised to see him come out on top for this event. So what are my personal hot takes for this World Championship? Well, buckle up. Currently, even though North America has been dominating, I think throughout the entire season, I do think that the best chance to win this World Championship will either be Asia, specifically Japan. And I'm not saying that just because it is their home region. I do think it's really going to be interesting because, again, this is a World Championship where we have basically a brand new format, and I think Japan's team building is absolutely creative, and we could definitely see a lot of surprise factors that could give them the edge at this World Championship. And then I think the other one would probably be Europe, and the reason I would say Europe is because I do think that they might have a little bit of an advantage because they got to play a little bit of Regulation D while the Americans were usually prepping for the North American International Championship. A lot of Europeans didn't actually attend the North American International Championship, so they got a little bit of extra time in Regulation D. So I think that could give them an edge, not to mention they do have a lot of strong players competing, especially in the day 2, which I would not be surprised to see them do well. Another hot take is I do think that speed control is going to be very crucial to this World Championship, but that's not like too much of a surprise. But I do think that teams are just going to fall into 3 categories for the World Championship. Personally, I think it's either going to be the tailwind stuff with Tornadus, especially. I think it's going to be very crucial as Tornadus is one of the best Pokemon currently in the format, and one that a lot of players are just picked up. It is very, very easy to overwhelm opponents with tailwind that they just cannot stop if they're not prepared for it. The other one would be the Trick Room versions with like either hard Trick Room, like the Entity, Armor, Chattering stuff, or Cresselia, which I think is just always going to be a solid pick because I do think that Cresselia is one of the most solid Trick Room users you can get right now because of its general bulk. And of course, Lunar Blessing allows you to pretty much shut down anything that's trying to passively stall out Trick Room because you're just going to be able to heal back all the HP. Then we have either Priority or Weather. This is because if you don't have Tailwind or you don't have Trick Room, you kind of need speed, otherwise you're just going to get overwhelmed because the dynamic between heavy hitters from the tailwind stuff and the hard hitters from the Trick Room stuff, it's going to be really hard to contest them without any form of speed because you're just going to get outsped and probably like knocked out before you actually get the hit off. So I think if you're not going to be running either tailwind or you're not going to be running Trick Room, you're going to need either some really strong priority with like Terra Normal Dragonite, for instance, maybe Sucker Punch Xianpao alongside some other factors, and like Swift Swim users, Chlorophyll users is why I think Weather could also still be like pretty decent as well. Finally, it's either between usually the argument of Comfort or Call, and I think both of them are extremely viable. I don't think there is like a difference, but I do think that there could be a lot of Call specific niche Pokemon players might not have experience playing against, and some players might use that to capitalize on it. We have some Pokemon that have been doing extremely well throughout the past regulations, but haven't really had much of a time to shine in this regulation due to some changes, but I do think they still have a lot of potential. For instance, Ting Lu I think is a big one, and I've actually seen a lot of rise on Ting Lu recently towards this later half of the season, so I wouldn't be surprised to see if Ting Lu comes out in Regulation D. I've seen a lot of it on ladder for the past couple of weeks. So Mousehold Annihilate, I'm not too sure, but I could definitely see a bit of a solo Annihilate just because I think Annihilate with the fighting ghost coverage is still really strong, and you do have some decent supports I think for it. And Water Annihilate can be really scary for Water Shifu to play against, so I do think it has some potential there. Excalibur, I think ice types have just gotten a buff just because they are able to hit a lot of Pokemon that are just weak to ice that came out in Regulation D. I think Excalibur has some potential. It's also pretty bulky, and the same for Iron Bundle, alongside the fact that Iron Bundle with booster speed is still like of course really powerful. It outspeeds Scarfer Shifu, which is also like a pretty big niche, and even like you have to be like Jollier Shifu to outspeed it in Tailwind. So it is definitely I think a Pokemon that could definitely do well at this World Championship. And that's everything you need to know about the World Championship that is going to be happening in Japan. Of course it will be a live stream, so you could check out the broadcast, and of course if you want to see more Pokemon content, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to Beastcoast Pokemon.